Yellowstone Caldera. Yes, a project looking at the science and what's going on around this, what things could be learned about it. That's the essence of it in a nutshell. Now, like a lot of remote viewing projects, we got a little more than we bargained for. So, yes, we're going deep below, and I love the image here. It's kind of reminiscent. It's like a 60s look, reminiscent of something on the order of Big Valley, 60s country, western, or Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, or Doctari, or some western movie. And then I love this picture here of these buffalo, these saturated colors, again this moody lighting, almost pastel-like. So, Yellowstone National Park, a little info about it here. It's one of the most iconic and revered natural treasures in the United States and the world. Located primarily in Wyoming, also portions extending into Montana, Idaho. Covers pretty fair large area there. Points of interest: Old Faithful Geyser, Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, Mammoth Hot Springs, Grand Prismatic Spring, Yellowstone Lake. Okay. And there are four calderas. Two main ones. We had a caldera forming eruption 640,000 years ago, roughly, and the most recent volcanic activity of note was 70,000 years ago, roughly. Lava flows of two different types here: lakes and domes, mud pots, springs, geysers, for those that maybe aren't familiar. So, viewing Yellowstone. List of remote viewers here, myself as a project manager, and the target is Yellowstone Caldera, the most relevant data science and humanity would like to know regarding its current condition using remote viewing. Okay, so that's relatively straightforward. Just looking generally at some generic data, we have here rocky, mountainous, natural, cold at the time, which was winter. Very accurate. Remote, underground network, underground chambers, vast hidden structures, flow dynamics, technology, light and energy, archaeology, relics, and some anomalous activity. Kind of a boiled down overview of this subterranean location with dynamics, location, and nature. There were signs of an older culture anomalous, non-human presence, human presence, contemporary data, crystals, jewels, different kinds of crystals, I believe, crystal walls, crystalline features, a mound pushing out of the ground, changing shape over time, cold temperatures, presence of different kinds of animals, some of them not common, potentially. Energy and electricity is associated with the location. Hydroelectrics mentioned, smell of electricity, taste of metal, observation telescopes, stars at night, secret covert aspects to the target. Spy communications, monitoring, underground monitoring, tower fill and emitting of energy, life forms underground, life forms above ground, man-made ruins, relics, seemingly underground, man-made current technologies. Some of those seemingly underground. Bunch of data here. We're not going to go through all this, but, and this is just part of it, really. I think we could have seen here probably at least double this, really. I mean, it's probably even more, and not even including the summaries. So, but yeah, lots of little things. Just for the record, some of it's pretty interesting. Let's see. Chambers, burial chambers. This lookout shack, and there are like towers, radio towers, grids, meridians, ley lines, or what we could assume might be that actually, but scientific technology, electrokinetics, pumping fluid energy, heartbeat, pulsing, heartbeat, yeah, I mentioned that, ebbs and flows, all this stuff and more. But we'll just take a look here at a lot of the main themes, which starting here we have sort of a centralized focus on adjoining structures, adjoining legs, this seemingly like a cavern with a small amount of flow here. This is like a center and chamber. Bulbous, rounded, layered, vibrating, humming, thermal imaging, that kind of thing. So what appears to be like maybe a central focus on perhaps the structure underground, and these could be energetic lines, could be these legs which are adjoining or jutting out, spreading out. And then we have this, which I found interesting, while maybe not an exact comparison. It's very similar. Wide across, and then here, you know, we're talking about kilometers. And we have this liquid energy. It seems to be fanning out here and getting thinner, semi-cylindrical, liquid energy, yeah, wide. And then this would be like a sort of mapped view of the basaltic and the rhyolitic melts, hydrothermal system all together here. This is, you know, one of the latest imagings or assessments, mappings of Yellowstone Caldera. So yeah, this is a look at the magma stored beneath, and it's an excellent electrical conductor, which actually, as we'll see, like during storms and whatnot, it makes it relatively easy to, one way to measure or take a look at it underneath, which otherwise is very difficult. But there are some approaches to looking at it. Here we have a mound drawn over time, 4 different shapes growing. These images represent a mound shape that gets bigger over time. It reminded of a rock formation, something that was almost pushing up out of the ground. It did feel natural. And then here it is depicted here, which very well could be it. You know, it was maybe it was 15 or so years ago, plus or minus 5 years, where it was growing substantially. I think it was tens of feet, if not maybe up to 100 feet. I'm not sure, but at the time, and there were many swarms of earthquakes, so there was speculation that it was getting active again. But there are swarms of earthquakes and changes in activity over time in this area. And then this is a overhead mapping of the activity and eruptions. This is the range change, yeah, so just an interesting view. And then looking at this drawing here, it's a large structure riddled with entrances centered around a flight zone. That could be. I mean, there's not a base near here to my knowledge. I mean, there was an old one, like a fort that became a base or something, and then there's Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, and another one, I believe, but not exactly next door. Flight zone acclimated to environment, seething, something seething, past planetary exploration, Cabal, Arrow. I don't know if that was an anomalous aircraft research or whatever it's called, something like that. Sense of piracy, passport to Sidonia, mission to Marsville. And then there's this object with lines again, and this seems underground. Here we'll look at this object that seems to be embedded in the ground, which some viewers got. And looking at this natural formation, this is a large stony mountain or wall, which, you know, seems to indicate we're kind of in the area. Stony, sloped, congregated, porous. Generally light for initial judgments. So I think this whole page kind of had to do with perhaps the lava flow. I feel like I'm at the dead end of a trail or path. Eerie. The man-made structure is also perceived. And we're kind of getting into also the idea of meridians and ley lines and how these underground areas could be important intersections of energy, grids on the earth. I don't know. There's probably still a lot to be learned about. There is. There's more data we need more data on it. But this could be one sort of interesting aspect, and we're looking at tall, skinny, parallel from each other at front perspective lines. Imaginary lines from above could intersect that may form geometric shapes. Sacred geometry, universal laws is mentioned. Here we have prime meridian mentioned. Intersecting, exclusion zone. Picking up an energy source here. Frosty and cold, visionary, like no pictures are here or allowed here. Okay, and then we're looking at, interestingly, these double helix vortex patterns, which seem to have to do with flow and energetics, flashy, bright, luminescent colors. There are different colors mentioned, spectral effects, spiral, sonic speeds, deep blue underglow. So I think this is static. Raindrop sound. Could be like dripping in a cavern, perhaps. Spikes, radio wave. Frequency, salty. Lava double helix. So certainly interesting. And when we look at this, for instance, paper I got on the web by Valentino Strasser and Alessandro Ferrari, looking at vortex theory and earth dynamics, it talks about the effects of vortices and torsional movements on the surface associated with volcanoes, and potentially a well source for activity. Magma upwelling from the mantle can trigger endogenic vortexes in particular conditions and due to something force. Forget me. So that's interesting to note. And then these two aspects of the session. This energy is or has a bright glow or ambient lighting, has a spiral helix-like shape, fast sonic speed. The energy isn't necessarily visible all the time. Only visible when met with another type of energy source or wave spectrum. So if we're talking about weather, lightning, UV, ultrasound, infrared waves, stuff like that potentially. Reminds of an EMP-like behavior, not so much in a physical sense. Aligns with certain octaves in terms of sound distortion and distribution. So that's interesting to remember that. Aligns with certain octaves in terms of sound distortion or distribution. Because I'm going to point something out, and this links to another session I did on Gaia and sound properties and looking at underneath the earth and stuff like that. So we'll look at that briefly, but I would recommend checking out that RV session on the website adventuresinremoteviewing.com. So, and then mention of the sun's position at 12 o'clock, which is kind of an interesting point. Certain UV rays spectrum reveals body of structure hard to see, perceptualize, and maybe the the time of day, the position of the sun, that has an effect on, to some extent, Earth's behavior, magma. Let's see. Scientists use a technique called magnetotellurics, perhaps, which analyzes variations in Earth's natural electromagnetic fields, often caused by lightning and solar storms, to see, quote unquote, beneath Yellowstone and map magma storage and structures. So, magma as a conductor is, like I said, a good conductor of electricity. Scientists can 3D map these things out. There is an article on the sun affecting magma formation deep within the earth. The position of the sun through its influence on surface climate and the subduction of organic rich materials indirectly affects the redox state, oxidation state of magma deep within the earth, particularly in an arc magmacity effect. Is that what that is? Sound. Well, first of all, here is that project. And I've included an excerpt of the transcript. And just kind of skimming over this, it's light energy, relationship to the ground or the underground, acoustical or sound component, resonant wave energy, certain angles transmitted through with the resonant sound quality, also radiating energetic aspect, emitting, penetrating with the sinusoidal or sine wave. A repeating wave, like when you wave your hand in front of a theremin, so it could be compared to music or the production of sounds. And the project is looking at Gaia No, I think the tasker's concept was sort of specific rather than open-ended, I suppose. Think with the idea of looking at a goddess or whatever, but what was perceived nonetheless was more of a geological aspect of Earth and all these things related. And then it also did have these beings as depicted here and illustrated of kind of like overlookers or tweakers, or not tweakers, but people tweaking, beings tweaking, fine-tuning, like a tuning fork, monitoring. That kind of feel is what came up in that session. So it's interesting to point out, especially with regards to the sound aspect. So it's an accumulation of energy that is coming up from inside the Earth. So you have magma underground. And maybe it had to do with raising the energy or lifting it up directionally, listening, maybe observing. There may be, or may have been, some metallic orbs somehow related. Different layers within the Earth. Caverns, rock, qualities of rock. Resonance, detecting, like a tuning, using a tuning fork. I don't want to bog down in this too long, but it is interesting. And there were these underground structures. Some of them seemed old, some of them seemed futuristic, some of it seemed cyberpunk, post-apocalyptic, some of it older or worn. There was this blinking light, which other viewers got in the Yellowstone session. So yeah, I guess there are some more here, a little more data. These beings did seem positive for what it's worth. Integrated complex system, cross sections. Yeah, so you could always pause and read some of this, but yeah, a lot had to do with lava flows. And also there was this cooler lava area that wasn't quite lava, but it was like smooth marshmallowy, molten orange, almost like clay, mud, smooth earth. Some of it probably molten and probably magma. So going back to the sound aspects, seismic waves and octaves. The Earth naturally transmits sound in the form of seismic waves, which travel through different layers, the crust, the mantle, the core. These waves could be thought of as existing in octaves, with different frequencies corresponding to various geological structures. It's kind of speculation here, but just as octaves in music represent a doubling of frequency, seismic wave harmonics might behave different densities of rock and magma. Medium for sound distortion, magma. Planetary resonance and vibrational frequencies. The Earth has its own vibrational modes, such as human resonance, and magma movement could interact with these frequencies. So as we'll see in this next couple of sketches, there's mention of a connection to the brain, maybe consciousness, neurons. So maybe that's part of the link. If we think of the Earth as an instrument, perhaps shifts in magma could retune certain planetary frequencies, much like tension changes in a drum head affects its pitch. Could behave like a resonating cavity where magma flows might act like distortions in a sound wave, shifting global frequencies in subtle ways. Now we've heard of the Earth sort of behaving like a bell, I guess, when large earthquakes affect and it kind of bounces around. There might even be a link between major volcanic or seismic events and specific resonant frequencies, possibly influencing phenomena such as electromagnetic activity or even biological rhythms. We could also speculate and say maybe other events down the road, depending on, I don't know, stressors. Sound-based detection of magma movements. Scientists already use infrasound, low-frequency sound waves to study volcanic activity. Could improve early warning systems. Some research suggests that magma movement generates unique sonic fingerprints that could be analyzed using principles of sound distortion. So, good find in that one, I think, with the viewer noting that, perceiving that. Now, there's also the subject of crystals, and one viewer got this pointy, narrow, tall structure that reminded me of a crystal or an obelisk type of shape, and the shard and sense of it piercing or pushing through. And of course, in this environment, that's where a lot of crystals are formed. And that one viewer also got like a crystal wall or something like that. We'll see. Sensation, yes. Yep, so there are different crystals found here: agate, quartz, jasper, sapphires, amethyst, celestine, aquamarine, jade, garnets, rubies, sunstones, moonstones, and so on. So that was another interesting point of perception in this project. Man-made structures, here are some of them. Now they seem to mimic these radio towers very closely in the drawings. Very tall. They got clouds around. I don't know if these are birds or UFOs, but yeah, skinny, metallic. And then there's this like these man-made areas. There's also a older area that's saying underground and stuff like that. So could be two separate themes going on there. Then we get like lights flickering, as I mentioned, tubes, filaments, tentacles, villi, wave-like pulsing. Some of these could be biological, microscopic, microbes. Some of it is perhaps the lava flows or openings and whatnot. Opening, in fact, here, coiled tube hose-like dropping downward. There's a fin-like shape, rib, fan, several fin-like shapes, tower-like, ancient structure. We see ancient structures and relics mentioned, filaments radiating, pulsing, delicate. This area was fantasy-like to the viewer and vast. Main area, hollow, acidic, bitter, pulsing upwards, magical, fantasy, gaseous. Stuck and release, spinning, spikes of energy, radio waves, static, electrical spikes, energy radiating, sudden darkness, blackout, hum. There's also this sort of sense of radio waves here and spikes. And this could be like recording graphs, seismometers, electromagnetic radiation, perhaps. Bursts, blaze, coil, burner, hot, sloped, plateau ridges. So this plateau and ridges and what appears to be like maybe this hot central or contained area, like a chamber and then entry and exit or something. Radio wave, static, raindrop sound, we covered this. Frequency, salt, lava, double helix, yes. Now, looking at the wildlife real briefly. What was picked up: common wildlife, plants, trees, horses, vegetation. And then there was some uncommon wildlife that seemed to pop in. A butterfly bird-like hybrid that had a beak and wings. So it was almost like an insect with a beak. I included this hummingbird hawk moth, which is a similar idea. There's a worm that is like a seal without flippers, so maybe a large worm-like creature. You know, there's no telling further down you go. We may run into some things that we've not yet seen before. And looking at it again, symbiotic, procreate, pollinate, large presence, wing. This seemed to be like a prominent thing here, or like a very noticeable. And this could be some kind of flower vegetation or some kind of flow, organic, natural. A couple of people picked up on eye monitoring. I think there was also like reptile skin associated with this. Whether it was an animal, whether there's some subject, I'm not sure. They did draw a bug-like face, alien face, that also seemed prominent. We'll see that as well. Now, associated with this site is, in more recent times, this treasure that was buried in Yellowstone and said to contain over 1 million worth of gold, jewels, and other artifacts. In 2020, it was announced the treasure had been found. Later, it was revealed that the treasure was indeed hidden in Yellowstone National Park. So, this viewer got people talking and planning and stuff like that. The feeling of the weather, the cold, the wind. Let's see, feeling they had to shout to be heard over the weather. Feels like they're looking for something, like there's a sense of being brave and daring and this treasure. And then you see these life forms sort of hiking, climbing mountains, whatever, moving a large natural rocky structure. Seems a bit dangerous, and a sense of animals being used or present, and maybe horses, which could make sense in that area. So that's another interesting point that came up, aspect of things. Looking at the structure some more, there's this what seemed to be like a dome area hidden. There's, I believe that's debris. This one has a light above. Ruins, unknown, man-made, mapped area from above. Okay. This little thing seems to be like the entire history of things, so, you know, is something buried down there? Pamphlet, scrolls, documents. Who knows? There's a subject inside appearing to be very tall and like a robot, which is patient, waiting, and will wait forever. Self-contained, gets energy from the light. Strange. And then this aspect shows like a man-made area here, unknown area here, dotted on the ground, and then ruins over here. And this is looking from above at 10,000 feet, or just under 2 miles. Again, looking at this, which seems to be a disc-type object protruding from the ground. And then separately, you know, we have these mountains and whatnot, and then this area fills below an unseen structure, again with these radial lines in this central area. Man-made structure and an event. Here we have something comes down from above into this area, and an indentation. It's unexpected. There's a malfunction, something to do with two particles, and maybe energetic connection. Didn't seem to be weather. It's perhaps radar, and I've heard of radar taking down craft potentially unexpectedly in strange circumstances, and maybe it's during weather too, I don't know. But taken by surprise, forced to dock. So for what that's worth, there's a structure here, and avoidance to detection. There is energy distribution. There's swirling blue, again is the mention of blue plasma ball. Distinct energy, and there's also mention an asteroid impact. So, believe it or not, there's a theory regarding an asteroid impact in this area that could have helped form this Yellowstone National Park, or one of the calderas, or the main caldera, I don't know. And then again we have this scene that's scenic. Something here feels quite large, like water rushing in. Here is what it says: retaining wall of some kind, divisional, proprietary, extraction, like air lifted out. Zion is mentioned. Prominent land features, appendages. Incremental decision making involved. So prominent land features, yeah. So I don't know if that's would be above or underground in either of these cases. There's also the sense of an optical illusion. Death camp, like a milestone in human history involved. Language, all feels contained in an isolated area. Humanitarian efforts involved, like playing a record over and over. So, yeah, something repeating there apparently. Sense of recorded transmission on this other page. Like a distress call to outer space. Cosmonaut, underbelly of craft, constant vibration, alienated species. Polluted atmosphere, nuclear efficiency, large staging area, secret division, like an object being pulled from Earth. Now we get into like some of the subjects involved that were picked up in these additional sketches. There are mentioned skeletal remains by more than one viewer. Which would probably make sense. Frequently visited. So an area frequently visited. Here it looks to be like some kind of alien being doing something. God knows what. And the sense of extraction, and something feels quite large. There's this mention of Zion. A strategic error. And then idea, or like a slow response. And then this is like an airfield, air lifted out, I'm sorry. So maybe at one point this had to do with an event, something happened. Someone got stuck in this area. Maybe it was an anomalous object in nature. Someone is wearing this helmet device that says transceiver, extreme, hopeful, weird. Okay. Frightened soldiers. Committed. This may be a female. Hybrid division. That's kind of interesting. Inverted. This may be a below ground area focused in. It could be a disc, an object. Someone sitting at a desk somewhere. Not sure. That one's not really labeled except for inverted. Pungent odor. And then there's this, what appears to be an object floating through a forest. Darting around through a forest. And someone that could be likened to a cosmonaut is standing in this rocky domain. A large crater, lost civilization, back channel information, planetary expedition, mission to Mars, AOL, military personnel, like tracking a civilization. And then there's a group of individuals here which are gathered and they're like taking a photo of all the individuals involved or something, or like a group photo. Bribing government officials. There's an official document directly related to this program. Distorting the truth. Highly decorated soldiers, treaty, all happening behind closed doors. That's kind of interesting. Again, we have a alien-looking being sitting behind a desk or table. Maybe he's reading the comics or something. Terra firma, dark working relationship. Feeling of being left speechless over here. Deep concern, disastrous consequences. The sense of diversity here, like a ride above an escort. Holloman Air Force Base. I believe that's in New Mexico, though. Is it? So it's like that, I suppose. Selection Committee, Aerospace Engineer. More sketches again. This is the alien close up. It's like a bug-like face and these flat and concave behind, I guess. Okay. Dark, moody, seeds, pods, clusters. AOL, contact with other beings. And this is just one of the summaries. There's some interesting bits in here. But at one point, they saw a bug-like face with nose-like structure that was very alien, close up. It was almost as if off-worldly influences were in our face now. Winged creature. Also the mention of physics, equations, force, parabolic, nuclear fission, space travel, taking off that leads to our origins, something like that. So, what are some of the interesting things we've found? Well, just as a summary, the characteristics, behaviors of the caldera, structures, vortex-like flow, pulsing and heartbeat activity, and much more. The possibility of an asteroid that helped form the area. Hints of undiscovered animals. Role and impact of the sun, weather, lightning, lighting effects, mapping of the area, connection to the position of the sun in the sky, meridians and ley lines, prime meridian, sound aspects, acoustics, magma, the earth, relationship to consciousness. Now I know there was a sketch that mentioned that. Might have to go back to that, or maybe it got moved out of the slide. Ancient archaeology and relics, portals and vortexes, alien activities, possible UAP crash at the site. Yeah, I think a couple of the sides got moved out of here, but that's okay. Alternate theories, including a meteor impact or asteroid impact, impact-induced volcanism. A plausible mechanism is proposed where these impacts could lead to resurgent calderas. I don't know. That's not really mainstream. Of course, it's maybe it's of note enough. Maybe it's enough to mention here, in that it could have had some effect, or it could have occurred here. The Chicxulub impact, which is believed to have caused the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs, is also theorized to have triggered the Deccan Traps eruptions in India. Antipode effect. Some speculated an asteroid impact on the antipode of Yellowstone, the point directly opposite the Earth's surface, could have a significant impact on the region, potentially triggering volcanic activity. Now, they say the supervolcano that is Yellowstone right now doesn't appear to have a very large chance of erupting. Does have a history of large eruptions. Let's see. Has a sophisticated network of all these seismometers, GPS stations, temperature sensors, radio towers, tilt meters, monitoring volcanic activity, transmitters, radio stations, towers, 4G and 5G, stuff like that. Park has a long history of strange occurrences, with reports dating back to the 1880s. These include phenomena referred to as lake music, which are whispers and hums and even musical notes coming from the frozen lake. On the UAP front, lots of stuff occurring in national parks, seismic anomalies. These have occurred, showing anomalous delays in seismic P waves recorded in Yellowstone, which some speculate could be linked to unusual underground activities, possibly hinting at something beyond natural geological processes. Possible alien activity. Cattle abductions. A sensational story from January 2025 discussed the idea of alien cattle abductions in Yellowstone, suggesting a shocking twist that could redefine narratives around the park. It could be worth looking into if there's anything to it. UFO sightings. Various reports, videos have surfaced over the years with visitors claiming to have seen UFOs in the park. These sightings often coincide with the unusual weather patterns or geological events, adding to the intrigue. And then you have the natural phenomena, which could be mistaken. here I've included this video, this capture of a video. This was on UFO Sightings Hotspot, and so in the video, this which you can find on the web, but this light, this is a overnight streaming camera in the area overlooking one of the geysers, upper geyser basin, and you see this light just kind of glide across and then kind of disappear here, and it's dark, and then there's this flash of activity like 5 seconds later. Kind of strange indeed. So that's it. Future of the park. Yellowstone could undergo a series of changes in the future due to changing climates, land use, and invasive species. These factors could dramatically alter the land within the park. Yellowstone is not expected to erupt anytime soon. Yep. Thank you for tuning in, and that was our project on Yellowstone Caldera and what lies beneath.